well, since we'll cover a lot of great information here. So like Courtney said, my name is Christine Galeb. I'm the Senior Director of Programs at the ION, and I direct the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator, which is just one of the programs you'll learn about today. Before we get started, I'll be talking a little bit about what the ION is, so bear with me just a few slides or so as we take a journey through the ION rather. So here we see kind of a background of the forum stairs, which you'll see right when you walk into the ION building itself. These stairs sit about 250 people, so there'll be a central focus and focal point for people coming to the ION to learn more about entrepreneurship, innovation, technology. We might see a scene like presenters talking about their latest research, maybe a startup giving a pitch or practicing a pitch, but the ION will be a place where many people come together in a building that is just under 300,000 square feet. This building anchors the Innovation District, which is 16 acres in Midtown Houston. So opening in early 2021, we're super excited because our construction has been ongoing throughout this year, which, when we think of 2020, it's kind of, a wild card of everything going wrong, but something that has been going very right for us over at the ION has been the construction. So our building, if you've passed by 4201 Main Street over the past few months, you've seen it go from the old Sears building, which is an old stone building, to more of a modern building, retaining some of the original architecture, but also adding some of the glass paneling that will make natural light flow through the building. Here's a shot from a recent stop at the ION. You can see some of the glass windows, as well as the beautiful views from the balcony that was added here, if you look right at the center of that picture. So we're situated right kind of between the Med Center and then the rest of the business district in downtown Houston. We have 4 project goals at the ION, and they're to strengthen Houston's economic resiliency and competitiveness, so a focus on the local economy. Our second goal is to attract and retain innovative talent, companies, and institutions, so making sure that we attract that talent and retain it here in Houston so we don't lose it to the coasts. Our project goal 3 is to foster an inclusive and welcoming neighborhood that offers economic opportunity to all Houstonians. And that's a key focus and goal for us, because we're placemaking with the ION, and we're not just making it a place where people can come, here or there or once or twice. We're making it a place that truly is, as goal 4 states, a vibrant, connected, and timeless location that celebrates Houston's communities and culture. We have 3 workforce development goals that anchor all of our workforce programming. So diversifying the tech workforce, making sure that we're providing that technical training for workers and job seekers at all career stages. Our second goal with respect to workforce development is diversifying tech entrepreneurship, making sure that we are assisting entrepreneurs at various stages of their startup life cycle. And then our third goal is strengthening our community businesses. So providing a hub, and you'll learn more about the Accelerator Hub today, providing a hub for reskilling and upskilling small businesses so that they can remain competitive in the midst of ongoing technological advances. Our vision and our mission anchor everything we do. So the ION is a place where we accelerate innovation and connect communities. And we anchor, activate, and accelerate the innovation ecosystem through partnerships, pathways, and programs that create opportunities to advance and sustain resilient economic growth in Houston. Well, how do we do this? We bring 4 different types of stakeholder groups together: our corporate innovators, members of our academic network, and those are the 10 colleges and universities in Houston, members of our community. So through community engagement and workforce development, we activate that stakeholder group, and then our startups and entrepreneurs. We bring these groups together so that you can see at the sweet spot of those intersections, there's mutual and accelerated collaboration. We're thankful to two of our flagship sponsors. Chevron is our first founding tenant, and Microsoft, of course, has been a strong supporter of the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator from day one. As mentioned earlier, the ION has an academic network of 10 of Houston's 2- and 4-year academic institutions for higher education. And at the ION, we offer programming that's available if you're a researcher, if you're a student, a faculty member, or a staff. At any one of these institutions, you can come and take programs at the ION. We offer a robust range of community engagement and workforce development programs. So we're activating each of these event spaces. Maybe that's something like our greenhouse pub that's featured here in the picture, where people are coming together maybe for a drink after attending an event in one of our classrooms, or maybe having a meeting in one of our conference rooms or huddle rooms or workspaces. We have a robust range of monthly events and programming, which are completely free and open to the public. I won't necessarily read all the other bullet points, but you can see some of our partners with whom we are able to offer some of our programming. Wherever you are in your entrepreneurial journey, in the life cycle of your business, there is something for you at the ION. We'll be talking today about the ION's Accelerator Hub, which draws together 3 accelerator programs, 2 of which you'll learn about today, for programming for startups and entrepreneurs. We're very thankful to have been awarded 2 grants to do the work that we're able to do. So here's where it gets a little bit tricky because you see the word hub a lot, and we talk about accelerator and aerospace and innovation, and we throw these terms around. But today we are learning about the Accelerator Hub, which will house 3 accelerators: the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator, Div Inc.'s Accelerator. We'll actually learn about them in a later event in this series. The Rice Alliance Clean Energy Accelerator, which we will learn about today. And then I do put the bullet point here that says Strengthen Houston Galveston Pipeline, because we are lucky to have the support of Vision Galveston in supporting our hub so that we develop regional economic resiliency. We also have the Aerospace Innovation Hub at the ION, another hub, so that means more events. And you can join us tomorrow as well as in 2 weeks for more information about the Aerospace Innovation Hub, which will offer community events, education and training, as well as a 4th accelerator program specifically for minority business enterprises that are interested in solving aerospace related challenges. So at this point, I will stop. I've thrown a lot of information at you, and we will have a chance for questions and answers. I will stop sharing my screen and I'll turn it back to Courtney.
Thank you so much, Christine. There's our beautiful crowd. Thank you guys for those of you that have your cameras on. Great to see you. I am Courtney Cogdell. I am the program manager for the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator, because why have an accelerator have a short name? So we like to have long names for everything. I am so happy to be here today because you guys, we've made it. Last level of Jumanji, last month in 2020, we're here and we are so excited. So today, as Christine mentioned, we will be discussing the Accelerator Hub at the ION, and we'll also be talking to our partners about their involvement. And most importantly, we're going to inform all of you of how you can be involved when the ION opens. So let's start by having our panelists introduce themselves. This man needs no introduction since he's been a part of the Houston innovation ecosystem for quite some time. But for those of you that may not know Brad Burke, you're in for a treat today. Brad, welcome.
Thanks, Courtney. I appreciate that. And thanks for the invitation to participate and to talk with all of you today about what we're doing. But just who I am. So I am the managing director of the Rice Alliance for Technology and Entrepreneurship. And we're a part of Rice University, and I get asked that sometimes. But so the Rice Alliance is part of Rice University. My background is I started my career with Exxon. So I have an oil and gas background originally. But then when the dot-com boom came along, I joined a startup that went public in 1999, and I rode the dot-com wave. And when that ended, I was looking around for something fun to do, and then I just realized that coming aboard the Rice Alliance and helping to lead the Rice Alliance would be a fun thing to do. And it's been more fun, but more work than I ever anticipated. I see Charlie Nunu here, and Charlie was involved in the Rice Alliance since at least the time that I joined it, if not before I joined it. Uh, so now I've joined the Rice Alliance in 2001, have been involved in leading it since then. So it's been a great 20 years. In fact, we're celebrating our 20th anniversary right now. So that's a little bit of background about me, and I'll turn it back to you, Courtney.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad. See, I told you guys, he knows what's going on here. I know Christine introduced herself a little earlier, but she is the queen of puns, Dr. Christine Gala. We are so happy you are here with us. And if you want to give just a brief intro as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny, I guess I'm gaining quite the reputation for having terrible puns. I tried to spare you the one on the cover page, but you all are not safe from it now. Nobody laughed, so truly it's bad. December 1st, 2020. So as Courtney said, and as we've talked about, I'm over at the ION. I've been there just a little over a year. But my background has been a non-linear career path. So I'll kind of give you the high levels of that. Actually studied English and medieval history in college. So I can speak Middle English if anybody cares to to converse in a pretty much a dead language, but still fun. From college, I went on to Wall Street. I co-founded an asset management team that managed money for foundations and endowments. After that, I started a health and wellness consulting company, ended up joining Teach for America. So I taught in the classroom, taught biochemistry there. Founded my second business, a social enterprise, actually teaching financial literacy, investment management, particularly in underserved areas. So was able to create a program that better helped participants understand and manage their wealth. After that, I worked with the Department of Education, teaching and helping charter schools teach science. And then I made my way to Houston, where I designed the country's first and only 4-year degree granting entrepreneurship diploma for high school students. So high school students graduate high school with entrepreneurship coursework, everything from an entrepreneurship class to private equity and venture capital classes, leadership and decision making, to then starting their own business as a requirement for graduation. Came on over to the ION in July of 2019. Had no idea, like many of us, that we'd all be working from various locations, working from home this year, but it's been great to start the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator and expand from the Accelerator program into an Accelerator Hub and an Aerospace Innovation Hub as well. So I'll turn it over now to Courtney Cogdill to introduce herself. Maybe I'll put her on the spot a little, but I could not do the work that I do at the ION without Courtney. So I'd love to introduce you all to her as well.
Thank you. We do work really well together. Christine and I sometimes will having the same thought and one of us will say it and it's quite amazing. Well, as Christine said, I'm Courtney Cogdill and I have also had a very non-linear path, but am 100% entrepreneurship is in my family's DNA. I grew up, actually, my parents owned a hotel and a restaurant for 11 years. We lived on property all 11 years and I've been working since the age of 9. So my parents obviously very much believe in child labor and believed in, as my father put it, building character. So I have been building character for quite a while, but went from the hospitality industry into healthcare actually. Took a bit of a pivot. During that time, I had my own business doing events on the side. I did events for the state of California. And then I said, you know what, let's make it more difficult. I want to work with brides. So I then went into wedding and floral design and all of those things and just bounced around to everything of where my skills fit. And that landed me here in Houston about 4.5 years ago. And I started in the innovation ecosystem at TMC Innovation, a fantastic accelerator and everything in there in the Med Center, one of a kind for Houston. And I started the ION last summer, same time as Christine. She started in July. I started the month after in August. So I've been so excited to see the ION grow and really what this ecosystem has become just in the 4.5 short years I've been a part of it. So excited to be here. And we're going to go ahead and kick off the presentations now. Brad, I know you have some slides for us. So if you'd like to share your screen, and we can have you start. Just a reminder, we will have a Q&A at the end. So you can drop your questions in the chat box and we'll address them at the end. Perfect.
Great. So you can see my slides, I guess.
We sure can.
Cool. Well, you know, I started this with a little bit of a commercial and to brag on the Jones School at Rice. So we just, the new Princeton Review ranking came out of entrepreneurship programs, and in the graduate entrepreneurship category, the Jones School came out #1 for the 2nd year in a row. Now, that's nothing compared to the University of Houston that has been #1 or #2 in undergraduate entrepreneurship for as long as I can remember. So we're really fortunate in Houston to have two highly rated Princeton Review programs in entrepreneurship here. Now, you may, people at other universities, other cities may agree or disagree with the methodology, but you know, when you come out strong, you don't argue with it. So, so we're not going to argue with that. Let's see, there you go. So the Rice, just a little bit of background about the Rice Alliance, and I mentioned the Rice Business Plan Competition because a lot of people seem to know us more from the Rice Business Plan Competition than anything else. And I will get to, and I'll talk about the Accelerator next and for most of my talk, but we do, among all the programs that the Rice Alliance runs, many people know us because we have the largest and richest student startup competition every spring. And so we've been awarding over $1 million in prizes for a number of years, which is anchored by a couple investment prizes from Goose Capital. And I saw one of the interns, one of the MBAs with Goose Capital on this call a minute ago. And the OWL Investment Group puts up another large investment prize, and they've invested millions in winners at the business plan competition. In the clean tech area, in September, we had our first unicorn and public company graduate from the competition. So a startup named Hyliion, which is an electric hybrid trucking company that originally came out of Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, moved its headquarters to Texas, I'm proud to say. They competed in 2015, and then in September, they went public on the New York Stock Exchange, and they're valued at about, last time I looked, at about $4 billion. And actually, Forbes ran an article on the founder saying that this was the youngest self-made billionaire in this country. So it's nice to see some of the alumni from the competition doing well. But a lot of people know us also from our energy programs, and I'm going to really talk about our energy and our new Clean Energy Accelerator that we announced in September. The background on that is that we've hosted energy tech venture programs for almost our entire 20 years that we have been in existence. And during that time, we've hosted over 840 energy startup ventures. Those startups have raised over $6.5 billion in funding. In total, in the history of the Rice Alliance, we've had over 2,600 startups come through the program and had some 50,000 or more attendees participate. And those programs have been designed, the technology venture forums that we do have been designed to help connect startup entrepreneurs with investors and connect those startup companies with corporations. And so we've had a fair amount of experience in doing that over the years. But about a year ago, when we started planning this new initiative, you know, we came to the realization that in the clean energy side, you know, Houston has been ranked, has been talked about as the energy capital of the world. But when you looked around the country, places like Boston and San Francisco and Chicago and LA all had major clean energy initiatives. And at the time, we really didn't have that in Houston. So I had lunch with some folks from Wells Fargo one day, Chad Johnson and Tia Fuentes, and we were talking about this, the fact that Houston needed to do more to be, we had a number of the right ingredients, but we didn't have the efforts in clean energy that we ought to have. And that we ought to have it for a couple reasons, because we are the energy capital of the world and there is an energy transition underway, and people don't know for sure what the time frame of that transition is, but it's clear that it's underway. And so the idea was germinated over this lunch to launch a clean energy accelerator to support these clean energy ventures, and also to connect them with the energy corporations in Houston. And so it began from that. And what we realized is that over the years, we've developed a network of a large number of energy investors, both traditional technology investors as well as clean energy investors. And we developed a large network of energy corporations as well. And that one of the issues that these startups need is they need access to mentors and advisors and experts from the energy industry. They also need access to pilots, field trials, potential customers, and a support network to help them. And then some of the entrepreneurs in this space, they know a lot about their technology, but don't necessarily know the nuts and bolts of starting a company and launching it. So we decided that it made a lot of sense in Houston to have an accelerator for clean energy startups. And we're fortunate to be able to partner with the ION, and the timing has worked out really well, that the program will run out of the ION beginning next year. So the other aspect of it was that, starting with Wells Fargo support, we then reached out to a number of the major energy corporations, especially the operators, the international operators, and some of the other major energy corporations in Houston. And resoundingly, every firm that we reached out to said that they were excited about what we were hoping to do and that they wanted to be on board. What has been terrific to see in Houston over the last, in my mind, especially last 5 years, that all of the major energy corporations have initiated efforts in some aspect of renewable alternative energy, knowing that the transition is happening and that the industry needs to make efforts to offset the CO2 and the climate impacts of the industry itself. And so I have seen in the last 5 years a major shift in the industry, and it's evidenced by the fact that they were all very supportive of this, and which makes me very optimistic about the future of Houston and the future of the industry. And we also had gotten great support from a number of organizations in town, both at the city level, the City of Houston, the ION, Houston Exponential, Greentown Labs, and Plug and Play, and others. So we're fortunate to have a great group of supporters. The time frame of this is that, we announced the accelerator in September. We'll open applications at the beginning of next year. We'll have a review process and then invite startups to participate in the first cohort of the accelerator, likely at the beginning of the second quarter of next year, and then kick this thing off sometime around the summer. So it'll be cohort 1. It'll be operated in a similar way to a typical, I would say, Techstars model, which is roughly a 12-week accelerator program where we provide a curriculum to the companies depending upon what their needs are, provide introductions to investors, and also provide introductions to the major corporations as well. Because we certainly expect that some of these ventures that come in will be pilot ready, and some may be at the stage where they're just beginning to want to expand and build and grow their companies as well. So we're pretty excited to add another ingredient to the Houston landscape to support the clean energy area. You know, and it's fortunate that, you know, I think I'm biased, but I think the addition of the ION to the landscape here with its 300,000 square foot facility will really be a major have a major transformational impact on the Houston startup community. And, you know, I can talk more about that as we get into the Q&A, but I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about the Accelerator, and I'll turn it back over to you guys now. Courtney?
Thank you so much. I am so excited about this as well. I think it's the right time. You have all the right partners and everything's really coming together. I saw your website there. It was ricecleanenergy.org for them to visit, or?
That's right. Rice, if I'll share that just one more second.
Yeah.
ricecleanenergy.org.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So for more information, or if you want to check that out after we're done, I encourage everyone to go there and take a look. All right, next up, we have Ms. Christine Galeb. She will be talking about the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator at the hub at the ION. Christine, you want to go ahead and share your screen if you'd like?
Yep, I'm sharing now, and just give me a second here. We'll get the deck back up.
Oh, look at that, events in person.
Right, remember those days. I hope everyone can see my slide now on full screen.
You sure can.
Yep, great, good. So yes, this was way back when, our cohort 1 demo day. We had just over 200 city leaders, decision makers, entrepreneurs, startups in attendance at cohort 1's demo day. So that is seems like a world away, but we're certainly looking forward to a time when we can have things like super demo days at the ION in person. And until we have a vaccine, till it's safe to get together, we're operating virtually. Our third cohort will be run virtually. I'll get into that in just a little bit, but we over at the Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator, we take pride on creating a community that supports each other through the cohort. So many of our startups will say, we're here, we're getting the individualized attention that we need. Everyone is kind of running their own race in the Accelerator program. We do not take any equity from our startups if they come through the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator. And so what we basically offer is a 3 months curriculum and one-on-one office hours for startups with an MVP. So when you apply, and we'll put the application link in the chat box in just a little bit, when you apply, you've got to talk us through where you are in the process with your MVP. So if you're coming to us and you say, well, I have a really great idea for something that would have a lot of civic value for Houston, that's great. We'll probably refer you to one of our friends at one of the other accelerators in town, because you've got to come into our accelerator with some type of minimum viable product. And after the 3 months of curriculum, you're then positioned to enter into a 6 to 9 month pilot phase. So the real goal of the accelerator programming is to get you pilot ready, ready to obtain or achieve pilots with the city of Houston or some of our industry partners. So let's take a look at what we do within those 3 months. We have workshops, lunch and learns. We have our, I guess it's now infamous or notorious, Pop-Tarts and pitches. We love alliteration at the ION, specifically words that start with P's. If you remember our mission statement, there's a lot of P's in there. But Pop-Tarts and pitches is a time when the startups in our cohort can give their pitches and get feedback from a panel of judges in almost a Shark Tank type style event, but it really helps our startups refine their message and get to the core meaning and value of their product or service. We, of course, have mentor meetings. We have a very robust mentor network with mentors spanning a range of sectors here in Houston. We do investor matchups. So we help our startups, if they're looking for funding, we help match them to investors that might be interested in them. And then we, of course, also offer monthly check-ins for our graduated members. So for members of cohorts 1 and 2, we do have monthly check-ins with them to make sure that we keep the community and family feel going strong. As I mentioned, we don't take equity, and we do provide access to a robust mentor network with subject matter experts, as well as access to the ION's corporate partners. So cohort 1 focused on transportation, resiliency, and mobility. They're up to over 20 pilots and counting. And you can see some of these startups are focused on transportations, SlideX, being able to locate parking spots and map you right to your parking spot, as opposed to you kind of circling the block and contributing to traffic while you're looking for a parking spot. Humanity is actually a startup that contributes to community resiliency by matching needs in the community to where those resources are that might help those needs. So those are just a few examples. Cohort 2 focused on air quality, water purification, and clean tech, and really positioned us to spotlight our cohort 3, which is on sustainability. So cohort 2, we launched on Earth Day, April 22nd of this year. So we ran that virtually. As we experienced the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. But Waterlens was one of the all-stars in our cohort. All of them are all-stars, but I call out Waterlens in particular because they were very early on in the process. They were able to integrate a COVID-19 test for part of their water testing kit. And so they were able to secure a pilot very quickly with the city of Houston, and they're actively testing our water for traces of COVID-19. Re3D, of course, is another all-star. They were able to pivot quickly as well and offer PPE for the people, which ensured that people in underserved areas had access to PPE supplies. Eigen Control, S2G Energy, focusing on energy management, focusing on meeting some of our carbon management goals, which of course Brad alluded to earlier in his presentation when he talked about the energy initiatives that are going on in Houston. Our demo day, I do want to shout out Courtney for this, because our demo day was truly a Houston day of thought leadership. It clocked in at just about 8 hours or so of footage of our thought leaders from many organizations in Houston, including the City of Houston, as well as other research organizations. We had over 450 unique viewers from over 12 countries around the world to celebrate the demo day for cohort 2. And this positioned us well for cohort 3. So we launched our application for cohort 3 just about a little over a month or so ago. We'll focus on sustainability as we align to the Resilient Houston strategy, as well as Houston's climate action plan. And so I did mention we'll chat the application link for you all in our chat box. We'll start the cohort in late March, just after South by Southwest. We'll go through June till the end of June 2021. We're operating entirely virtually. Applications close just about in mid-January. So you've got quite some time to kind of read through the application and make sure that as you're applying, you're aligning to the goals in either one of these documents. So when you look at the application, you'll see that we've provided a video that actually walks you through how to apply and how to kind of pick apart the goals and make sure that you're talking about those as well. And then this is kind of the quote that we really like closing with. So I won't necessarily read it all for you, but it's a real testament to the history of Houston, our innovative spirit, the ethos of innovation that has, started as early as our pioneer and frontier days, certainly in the 1960s with space exploration. But now we find ourselves really over the past few years, after we lost the Amazon bid, we kind of kicked it into high gear and we said, we've really got to do something about all the talent that we have here. And as Brad said earlier, the ION really will be a place that will transform Houston's history because it does anchor, accelerate, activate, And I'll throw in a fourth word that starts with A because I can't get away from those alliterations, amplifying the work of individuals, innovators, and investors. So we're super thrilled that you're part of our journey, and we look forward to seeing you at the ION in 2021.
Fantastic. Thank you, Christine. I did go ahead and drop in our application link in the chat box for you guys if you'd like to take a look there. You can take a look at the application, goes a little more into detail about the resiliency plan and the climate action plan that Christine and I probably have read more times than we'd like to admit. But if you have a spare, oh, I don't know, day and you feel like learning about climate action, by all means, check those out. Well, I know the chat box is blowing up all during it, but if you have a question now, please go ahead and drop it in the chat box and we'll kick it off. So Brad, we'll start with you. And then Christine, of course, you'll answer the same question. So what makes Houston the best place for these programs that we're offering now?
Well, that's a great question. I could spend the rest of the hour. I'm biased about Houston, and so I'll say things, and these are not things that are new, but why is it the best time, especially in clean energy? Houston. I said before, Houston is the energy capital of the world, and all corporations recognize the transition that we're going through and have efforts in various areas to promote clean energy, but recognize that at the same time, new technologies can improve the efficiency and the sustainability of the current oil and gas, and that too. So for being the energy capital of the world, one of the advantages I think that we have over every other part of the U.S. and the rest of the world is that entrepreneurs and startups in Houston can make those with corporations.
Yeah, I'm on a Zoom.
They can make the connections to the corporations here that they can't make anywhere else. And we have in Houston the technology knowledge and the infrastructure knowledge and capabilities to be able to scale up. So whatever's, energy is such a massive industry and of massive importance that it's one thing to have a startup and to launch it successfully and raise some money, but it's another to scale it up and make it truly successful for a large enterprise. And, I don't think there's any area of the country that has the capabilities that Houston does in that way. And so, I'm pretty excited and about Houston's prospects. And I'm also excited about the leadership of Houston that gets it and is very focused on trying to make Houston successful. From the mayor's office and the city government to the Greater Houston Partnership and the Energy 2.0 Committee to other leaders in the community, I think that it's the leadership of the city and of both the corporate city leaders is aligned on supporting these innovative entrepreneurs that will drive the future of Houston long term. We don't want to, let's see, if I start to if I pick on a city, I'll probably get into trouble, but we've seen other industries where the industry has left the city and then the city has kind of been in shock in terms of how to recover from that. And where I'm optimistic is that we're addressing this proactively to ensure that we have the long-term economic development and job creation in Houston, and then it doesn't migrate to other places. So, I'm excited about Houston for all those reasons.
Christine, to you.
Yeah, I don't know how much I can add to that. That was very well said, Brad. But I will add a few things too. I think Houston is so unique because we truly are a community that's willing to activate at the grassroots level and then take that to the next level. So we have that industry support that Brad was talking about earlier, and maybe even more powerfully, we have people that face a challenge or crisis, Harvey or coronavirus, by coming together, by rolling up their sleeves and by not waiting for someone else to take action, but by saying, how can I take action? And how can I do this? And how can I activate my network? And people are willing to help everybody along their path as they do that. So I think there is this incredible entrepreneurial energy that is also supportive of other people as well. Um, I will also put a plug in and say Houston's food scene. I think when people are well fed, and Courtney and I can't wait to get back to in-person events because food is an integral part of what we do. Pop tarts and pitches, right? That is our breakfast bar where we have Pop tarts and go over our pitches. But I kind of say it jokingly, but when you've got such a wide range of food, because Houston is the country's #1 diverse city, you've got that diversity of ideas all coming together in one big melting pot. Um, and so I think that also fuels a spirit of innovation in Houston as well.
Absolutely.
Well, and let me add to that too. Like I can't see everybody who's here because I haven't scrolled through the pictures, but I see Thomas Henry with Unique Ventures. We have so much talent in so many organizations like Unique Ventures, and I see individuals from Shell on here as well. That we're such a collaborative city that, and we have the talent, and we have so many folks and organizations who are working together collaboratively toward this vision of helping, to build the future of Houston. I think it's a huge plus for us. And the other thing I'd say is that I think I'm biased. I think, we're Texas, we're Houston. We have this culture of, we do things big and the best. So in Houston, we have the world's largest medical center in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's the medical center, it's the largest in the world. And we are the energy capital, not just the US, but energy capital of the world. And, closer to my home, we have the world's largest business plan, student startup competition in the world. And if 20 years ago, if you looked across the US and you said, well, where would the largest student startup competition be? Where should it be? And everybody would say, well, it ought to be at Silicon Valley and Stanford, or it ought to be at MIT in Boston. But it's not, it's here in Houston. And so, I think we have a culture of driving to success that gives me more confidence in Houston.
Absolutely. I'll say I grew up in Dallas. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm going to get yelled at for that. But I moved to California, but coming back to Texas and being in Houston and watching these entrepreneurs really just pick up and build this ecosystem and build this community and this network of people here. And then during COVID, running our second cohort all virtually, you saw like just the resilience of startups and the resilience of people here in Houston, and pivoting their technology to adapt to what's going on in the world is just fascinating. I admire entrepreneurs so much for that, being able to adapt to the change. So we did have some questions in the chat. So Brad, this is about the RICE program. So do you have an idea of how many companies will be accepted, and are there any minimum requirements for those companies?
Yeah, no, there's right now there's not any minimum requirements for the companies, and so we, I don't want to put any hurdles on your ability to get into the program, because it might be that the companies that need the help the most or can benefit the most may not, be able to say, yeah, I've got certain capital that I've raised or at a certain stage. So we want it to be as valuable as possible to the companies that really can benefit from it. So, if I were to say, we hope that we are able to build a large, successful accelerator program that benefits a lot of companies. So our goal is to do that. So in terms of a specific number of companies that will be in the first cohort, I'm not sure. We have, the good news is we have experience running accelerator programs. So on our team, Carrie Smith and Jessica Fleener have run the AlSpark Accelerator, which is a student accelerator for 8 years. And prior to that, we were involved in working with Kurt Coburn, who's now at Shell Ventures, who ran the Surge Accelerator. So we've got a fair amount of experience in running accelerator programs for a decade. And so my hope is that we can scale this accelerator to benefit as many companies as possible, as quickly as we can, and learn from our first year or two and continue to grow from there.
Absolutely. I think just saying that in the first year or two, I know Christine and I, that after that first cohort, you really have this debrief and kind of go, okay, we went in there with these ideas and thought this was going to go, but this is actually how it went, and how can we make these changes for the coming up cohort? So lots of a collaboration needed on that standpoint. Okay, so continuing with our questions, Christine, we'll start with you on this one. What do you feel are the top 3 issues that are facing entrepreneurs today?
That's such a great question. And I have my COVID answer and I have my non-COVID answer. So I don't know, maybe we'll come up with a few of each, but I think one of the things that we stress the most at the accelerator, the Ion Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator, is the ability to tell your own unique story in your own unique way. And I think that's really important because, you know, at various points in Houston's history, we've tried to be like Silicon Valley, or we've tried to be like New York, or we've tried to be like Boston, or we've tried to be like somewhere else that isn't authentic to our own Houston DNA. And I think over the past few years, we've kind of said, you know what, let's not do all that. Let's build on the great Houstonian culture that we actually have here. And I say that, you know, kind of jokingly and kind of in jest, because a lot of entrepreneurs will come to our accelerator and they'll have a great product, but we still have a little bit of polishing to do to help them tell their story in the best possible way. And so I would say the number one issue facing entrepreneurs is being able to communicate exactly what that value is for your product in a world where there are so many other similar products. So that's kind of number one, is that ability to tell your authentic story. So maybe I'll just throw out one for now, and we'll kind of noodle on that one.
All right, Brad, to you. What do you think are some of the issues that are facing entrepreneurs today?
Well, you know, to be honest, I think the number one thing that I've heard over the years that, you know, we beat ourselves up for in Houston is not having more venture capital. Because you'd have to say, if you look at across the map, that there is more venture capital going into the coast, Boston and the Bay Area. So capital, you know, is the thing that people traditionally talk about, but the flip side is there has been a dramatic growth in the number of corporate venture capitalists, especially energy corporate venture capitalists over the last 5 years. There's been a great increase in the number of hard science VCs who are interested in materials or interested in real hard science as opposed to simply digital. And that's been good for Houston and good for energy. And there's been a growth in the number of angel investment investors. And, you know, not everybody knows, but Houston has one of the largest organized angel networks in the country with the Houston Angel Network. And with Goose Capital, which originally was founded as the Goose Society of Texas, is a group of about 25 or 30 high net worth angel investors. And the Owl Investment Group, which has about 40 or 50 angel investors in it. And there, I could go on. There's a dozen or more angel networks that are based here in Houston that provides the early stage capital now that didn't exist a decade ago. And then a number of VCs, both corporate VCs and non-corporate VCs who invest in this area. So, you know, traditionally, I think people have, you know, we beat ourselves up over this issue of capital. And I think it's gotten a lot better over the last 5 to 10 years.
Absolutely. And I think one of our partners, Houston Exponential, with what they're doing with bringing VCs in from all over the United States. If you're a startup on this call, I really would encourage you to check out their call for startups in there. They have a VC kind of office hours that they set up. You apply, and the VCs themselves go through and pick which startups to meet with. And also, Houston Exponential has launched their tech list. And if you haven't checked that out yet, really get your startup on there. It's so important for this ecosystem, and there's so much going on there on that website. So I know we have about five. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add, underscore what you said. The HX Fund of Funds is one of the great additions to the Houston landscape. So it started, I think, as the fund one was about a $30 million fund to invest in other VCs on the condition that those VCs would come take a look at what's going on in Houston. So they're not necessarily committed to invest because that would have been a showstopper, but they're committed to take a look, and they do take a look at what's going on here. So we are seeing much more non-Texas VC activity, what's going on in Houston. And one of the reasons is the HX Fund of Funds, which is an amazing addition to the landscape here.
It really is. Christine, any last minute ads on there on your thoughts about what issues are facing entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of it. I think too, and maybe this is a plug for the Ion as a physical building, but Houston has not historically had a physical building where that level of corporate innovators, academic members, researchers, community members, startups, and entrepreneurs can come together to physically be together for those collisions that drive the collaboration. And so I think with the Ion anchoring the 16-acre innovation district, we have not had a 16-acre innovation district here. So it's maybe been notoriously difficult for entrepreneurs to connect. I know maybe transportation or driving can be a barrier, especially if there's traffic. But I'd say just the fact that we are building a physical location that will be walkable. Now talk to me in June or July and say, are you really enjoying walking in July? And I'll probably say yes, but because I like walking. But I think one of the issues has historically been transportation or connectivity related. And so I would encourage every entrepreneur, and if you're a corporate innovator on the call, or if you're a community member interested in learning more about what we do, come to the district and physically walk around there and take a tour once it's opened. So.
Absolutely. That is, I know Texas and Houston is so spread out. I mean, growing up in California, you're just so used to being on top of everybody. And when coming here, I was like, wow, I can breathe, except when I'm driving in Houston, I feel like I'm being shoved in a very tiny lane. But I mean, Houston really is very spread out, and that's a huge barrier. I mean, that was a barrier with being in the med center with TMC Innovation. So many people have a negative, like, oh, I gotta go to the med center, and you're like, well, parking's not that bad actually, and you can find everything fairly simply, and it's not difficult. But it really is just almost that mental aspect of being so spread out, and now we're bringing everything together. All right, so in our last 2 minutes, our final remarks from our wonderful panelists, we are going to go a little into the future. Let's fast forward 5 years and taking us all on a journey together. We're fast forwarding Houston in 5 years. Brad, how do you see the Houston innovation community changing?
Well, I hope that in 5 years that Houston's recognized as a leader in the startup entrepreneurship world, especially in the areas that we've been talking about in clean energy. And so, I hope if I look 5 years from down the road that we see tens or hundreds of energy tech startups in Houston that are successful, raising money, growing. And so, I think with the ION and with the other programs in Houston, I think we have the potential to change the landscape here. I think the ION is one of those, but there's other programs in Houston that are building on that. I think we have the opportunity to have a dramatic change in the landscape in a positive way, with hundreds of startups that are successful here, and to be recognized nationally for that.
Amazing. Christine, take us on a journey. What does 5 years in the future look like for you? Or for
Oh, well, yeah, well, for me and for Houston, we'll go with the for Houston one. I love, and this kind of comes back to the connectivity piece. Brad kind of talked a little bit about the energy piece, but I'd love to bring it back to the 16-acre innovation district, because I think 5 years into the future, if we can have a walkable, kind of sustainable, yes, we're leveraging clean technology. Yes, we're bringing startups, entrepreneurs, corporate innovators together. But if we can start to tackle some of the lifestyle challenges that Houston has faced, and we've kind of talked a little bit about them, I think we can begin to seriously attract and retain that talent here in Houston. And of course, we've got plenty of talent already in Houston, but I think as we really look to the future and think about the diversity of our people and our citizens in Houston, what is going to keep them adding to Houston's economy, and keep them, not just maybe from coming to Houston for 4 years and going to one of our great institutions, and then maybe heading back to some of the coasts, but keep them in Houston to start a family, or to start a business, or to start a life in Houston. It's interesting, Courtney and I, neither of us are from Houston originally, but we found ourselves here, and we've taken to a city that we now call our home. And that, I think, is very important. So I'd love to see some of the lifestyle factors, the walkability, the sustainability, the resiliency to disasters, the bringing of the community together. I'd love to see that lifestyle piece keep developing and growing stronger.
Well, I think 5 years has a bright future for Houston and for everyone here. Well, we can't thank you all enough for joining us today, and we hope that you learned a little bit about the ION Accelerator Hub and the programs that will be there. I know in the chat there was going on tomorrow, we will be discussing our Aerospace Innovation Hub, another hub if you'd like to join us. I just dropped the Eventbrite link in there if you'd like to sign up. But as always, thank you for joining us, and thank you for being with us today, and we hope you have a great week. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.